All right, so I've got to talk some more about this online trading academy. I keep hearing these salespeople on the radio more and more trying to appeal to average investors. For example, trying to say that the reason they lost money in 2008 is because they need to take expensive classes to become a day trader or swing trader or something. And they're making these statements of opinion, but they're presented as if they're facts. For example, they'll say, it's so important that everyone gets an education. Nonsense. Or you need the skill set to manage your money so you won't have to call your broker. Nonsense. Or the key to investing is knowing when to buy and at what price to sell at. Baloney. All nonsense. The key to investing is to buy, hold, and rebalance broad market index funds. You don't need a skill set to buy a total bond market index fund and a total stock market index fund. And you certainly don't need some asset manager or commission-based broker's recommendation, because you're not trading individual stocks and you're not buying expensive, actively managed mutual funds either. That's a straw man argument that OTA is using. You don't worry about buying low and selling high when you're investing in broadly diversified stock and bond index funds. And picking and trading individual stocks and individual bonds is an antiquated strategy. But yet Online Trading Academy is putting on the show for investors who are ignorant of index funds as if this is 1980 or something. And it sounds to me like they're trying to convince everyday investors that they need to become speculators by day trading, which is not investing. Day trading is speculating. Speculating is not investing. You don't speculate with your retirement savings. And I don't hear Online Trading Academy acknowledging the risk. The research says that day trading can easily lead people to losing everything, as I covered in my first video. Or if investors just give up on being a day trader, well, they've lost thousands of dollars that they spent going to OTA classes. So what else? And you don't time the market. OTA keeps trying to appeal to naive investors who, lost a ton of money in 2008 and that market crash. If you can't stomach stock market volatility, then you diversify more into bonds on day one. Nobody can predict the direction of the stock market. And according to financial analyst Mark Holbert, 80% of timers fail over any reasonable time period at beating the indexes. He states, I don't like those odds, neither should you. And according to Rick Edelman, buy and hold strategy beats market timing 99.8% of the time. Yet OTA seems to be implying that you need them to avert the next stock market crash. Again, if losing 36% of your savings in 1 year, like what happened in 2008, if that's going to cause you to freak out, then you don't put 100% of your money in stocks in the first place, you idiot. There's a simple, time-tested solution to risk that doesn't require tens of thousands of dollars in classes. It's called diversification into fixed income, bonds. But I would say my biggest beef with OTA is their failure to present any data that supports their system. If anyone watching this has any such data, send me a link to a webpage, because I haven't seen anything and I haven't heard them mention anything in their infomercials. Where's the statistical research to demonstrate that OTA's rules-based system is likely to make 50% or more of investors who take their classes money? Before I spend $10, $20, $30, $40, $50,000 on your courses, where's the statistical proof? Instead, all they do is make statements of opinion, or they present suggestive anecdotes, or they present some cherry-picked stories about a student. Instead, OTA talks about, we have a patented strategy. So what? Or they say, we've been around for 20 years. So what? That's not proof. That's not statistical research. This is the same way that index annuities are sold, and this is the same way that Ken Murray puffs up his market timing asset management services. Anecdotes, statements of opinion, and cherry picking. But so the only thing I'm left with are the general studies about trading, which I covered in part 1 of my review. And the research says that day trading is highly likely to send you to the poorhouse. By the way, since part 1 of my review, I discovered yet another study from Berkeley's Haas Business School that further supports that very, very few traders actually make money consistently. But what else? Or they'll talk about the lifestyle of a successful investor. This is such a sleazy, flim-flam way to puff something up. I mean, imagine that. I could do the same thing. I could sell a course on how to get rich playing the roulette wheel and talk about the lifestyle of a successful roulette wheel gambler. Instead of presenting statistical data to demonstrate that my system works, I instead conveniently talk about what could happen if you're that lucky guy who defies the odds. Yeah, he's on vacation in the Caribbean. He drives a Lamborghini. He's got a 5,000 square foot mansion. The lifestyle of a successful roulette wheel gambler who follows my system that I'm trying to sell you. Give me a break. The other thing they do, they present OTA as a substitute for a job. Imagine that. Trading stocks is not a realistic substitute for a job if you lose your job. And again, I could do the same thing. If you get laid off work, instead of a career change or learning a new craft such as realtor, electrician, carpenter, whatever, how about being a professional Las Vegas roulette wheel gambler? No, that's absurd. Another thing that amuses me about OTA is that they have a vice president of admissions. And I'm guessing they do this to create the impression of demand, like there's a gatekeeper and there's only so many people who can get accepted and the rest will get sent letters of rejection. Who the f*** are they kidding? Folks, this is not a university. OTA is actually a franchise. That's right, a franchise like Subway sandwiches. This is a money-making operation. Yeah, that's why they're paying for expensive advertising on the radio. So another thing they keep talking about, the big banks making all this money trading stocks. Again, first of all, this doesn't address the question of whether OTA's trading strategy is likely to be profitable for their students, or as I like to call them, customers of the franchise. They're not students, they're customers of the franchise. But they seem to suggest that big banks are making a killing by trading stocks. Are the big investment bankers really beating the indexes? Slaughtering the indexes after management fees? I don't know that they are or aren't. I know that mutual fund managers on the whole certainly aren't beating the indexes. We keep seeing study after study, year after year, in which mutual fund managers on the whole cannot beat the indexes. And we're talking about professional stock pickers. So if they can't do it, why would you fare any better? If you invest in actively managed mutual funds instead of index funds, then the odds are stacked against you that you're missing out on gains. So yeah, the big banks are making billions of dollars, but wait a minute, banks have like trillions of dollars in assets, so making billions of dollars is all relative. I would expect the big banks to earn billions of dollars, even if they're taking on very little risk. And most of banks' income generally comes from the interest it charges loans to customers, not from trading stocks. An additional bank income comes from the fees it charges. But by the way, in the description below this video, I found a post on EliteTrader.com with a very scathing review by a user named Wally who claims to be a former employee of OTA. You might want to read it. But it's so ironic that OTA says that it's so unethical when banks tell people what to do. Well, what about when OTA tells average investors that they need to spend thousands of dollars on attempting to time the market or becoming a trader of individual stocks? Do you think that's maybe unethical too? Let me know what you think in the comments section.